Okay, so my problem is that, I have a student in my preschool class who has a really hard time staying in the classroom, and he runs out pretty much any chance he can get. And I've been trying to find strategies with my boss and my coworkers, and it just seems like nothing's really working. So I was wondering if you guys had any suggestions.
So how old is the kid that's running out?
He's like 3.5.
Okay. What time of day?
It's usually during our transition. So anytime that we're like getting ready to go outside, we're coming inside. Anytime that we're like getting ready for a meal or anything along those lines is usually when he runs out. So a majority of the day, he's trying to run out of the classroom.
Okay, and does he have any other behavioral problems?
Yes, he has a really hard time with, what's the word I'm thinking of? Like any kind of social interactions with his peers. He has a really hard time expressing himself with words and not with being violent towards his friends when he gets upset. And then I don't think I said this, but he also, when he runs out, he runs directly to the elevator every time. So that's obviously a safety issue, but I can't just leave my other 9 kids to go chase him.
Does he take the elevator anywhere?
Well, he's figured out how to push the button and get into the elevator, but he can't go anywhere once he's in the elevator. So he usually just sits in the elevator and cries until someone can come get him.
So he doesn't have very good social emotional skills at all?
No, that's the word I was looking for. No, he does not. That's like his biggest struggle.
Okay. What strategies have been used already?
We've tried just, doing like the normal, like if you run out of the classroom, you have to sit out. We've put tape in the doorway to say like, hey, this bright colored, it's like hot pink and has like little patterns in it or something. And so we put that tape down and we're like, hey, you cannot go over this tape, like your feet have to stay on this side of the tape in the classroom until a teacher tells you otherwise. And that's really all that we've tried so far. We've talked to his parents about it, so they obviously know what's going on. They obviously don't have the same problem at home because he can go wherever he wants to at home. Mm-hmm. So they didn't really have a lot of tips for it.
So the tape is there because you keep the doors open? The doors are always open?
Yes, we always keep the doors open because they're always locked. That way, because we're just in one hallway, it's a really small facility. And so that way, if there's ever like an intruder or any kind of situation where we need to really quickly keep the kids safe, we can just shut the doors and we don't have to worry about going around and locking all of them. So we keep them open all day. That way, whenever parents are picking up or dropping off, or if the director needs something, you can just really easily go in and out between the classrooms.
What about putting a baby gate at the doors to keep him?
We have talked about doing a baby gate, but my boss is really not super excited about that idea since it is an older classroom in our school. They are from 2.5 to 4, and so we try to teach them, like, hey, you have to stay in here, not just you have to stay in here because there's something preventing you from going out. We want them to know that they have to stay in their classroom, and we also don't want the parents to have to worry about, like, picking their kid up and putting them over the baby gate or opening the baby gate up, and it also costs extra money and those kinds of things.
How many teachers are in the room? Is it?
It depends on how many kids are there. If there's 10 or less, only one teacher is in there. But once we get above 10, so anywhere between 11 and 14, then there's 2 teachers. And we try to have 2 if it's one, even if there's only 10 or less. But that doesn't always happen because of lack of staff that day, or if it's in the morning, the other teacher's not there yet, or if it's in the afternoon, the other teacher has left. Those kinds of things.
So putting an extra teacher in there probably isn't possible?
Yeah, it just kind of depends on the day for how staffed we are. If there is someone available, that's usually the room that my boss tries to put them in. That way they can be helped out in that classroom because it's one of the harder rooms because of the age that they are. But it does help having 2 teachers because then at least one of you can go get him right away. So that's a good idea.
Are the amount of times he runs out of the classroom less when there's an extra teacher?
Yes, he does it usually when there's the most chaos happening. So, like if 3 other kids are throwing a fit and you're trying to get lunch ready or you're trying to get all of their coats on, that's when he usually takes the opportunity to sprint out of the room because he wants you to not notice that he's gone.
What if we tried like a reward system with him? Like, like if he wanted like stickers or like, I don't know, like an extra treat or something at snack time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would probably work because he doesn't really care if we have him sit out. It doesn't really faze him. We just have him, like, okay, you have to sit out, and he just sits there, and then when he gets up, he runs right back out of the classroom. But the only thing with the reward system is that he's pretty hard to pique his interest. So, and a lot of times the only thing that really does is like an iPad or some other kind of technology, which we try to avoid having too much screen time. But we could always try, I guess, with like a treat or like you get to go play in the office or something like that instead. Yeah, I like that idea.
So would working with the parents be like an option since you can't use the iPad or screens a lot in the school? Like maybe tell them like he did really good to stay, he stayed inside the classroom. Maybe they could do some more screen time.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
I actually hadn't thought about that. Yeah, we could definitely talk to them. I'm sure that they would probably be pretty receptive because obviously even though it's not something that they're struggling with at home, it's not something that they want to be happening since it is a safety issue and he doesn't enjoy when he gets stuck in the elevator.
What kind of chart should we
Well,
use?
I liked kind of your two ideas together. So if we use like this picture chart or the reward chart, we could do it with, I know with some of our other students, we've done like smiley faces or like a neutral face or a sad face, depending on how well they do. And so we could do like in the morning or like at this transition, or if he hasn't, like if he just didn't run out of the room at all in the morning, he could get a smiley face. Or like if he only ran out of the room once, he could get like a neutral face. Or like if he ran out and came back, he could get like somewhere in between.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously if he ran out several times, he would get a sad face. And then I also liked what you said about talking to the parents and having them enforce the reward system since, like I said, piquing his interest is normally with like technology, like iPad time or TV time. And so we could use the reward chart as a way like to give them at the end of the day. That way they could see like, okay, he had this good of a day or he had this bad of a day. Like this is the reward that he gets or how much iPad time he gets, how much TV time he gets. That way it's still up to the parents and we're not going like against their wishes or my boss's wishes for not doing so much screen time at school. So I really liked that idea.
What if when you started you did each transition where he does normally, he would get a smiley or a sticker or whatever, and then as that gets better, you could do it for the morning. He didn't run. Then you get one sticker for that or a smiley face. And then in the afternoon. So then you're building up to bigger goals.
Yeah, I really like that idea.
That's a good idea. So do you think the parents would like be willing to follow through on stuff like that?
I think they would. They're pretty, like I said, he's got other social, emotional, and behavioral issues. And so they're pretty open to any suggestions too, because obviously if he has a rough day at school, like a really rough day, or he has to sit out a lot, his night at home isn't going to be wonderful. And so their obviously best outcome is if he has a great day at school and then he goes home and he has an awesome day at home or an awesome night at home. So I think that they would be pretty receptive, especially since they would get to choose how much time he would get on the iPad based on his day, and it would be completely up to them and not us. We would just be passing along the information.
Are you the only teacher in the room whenever he tries to run off?
Well, it depends on the day. A lot of the times when I'm in there, it's just in the afternoon because I do have class, and a lot of the girls that I work with are also college students. So it's just kind of whoever's there. And so it's usually like 3 or sometimes 4 different teachers going in and out of there throughout the day. And so when I'm in there, like I said, it's usually only like if the other kids are throwing a fit or if we're in the middle of like a transition time and like say we're getting ready to go outside and he just feels his friends are taking too long, he just decides that he's going to go do something else instead. But so that's usually the only time for me. I know that and I usually notice right away when he's gone, whereas some of the other teachers that I work with are either focusing on another child or they're just really stressed out from being with that age group and they don't always notice right away that he's run away. And so then by the time they do, they're like, oh my gosh, I have no idea where he's at, and then they just have to holler for another teacher then, and that makes it an even bigger safety issue because we don't know where he's at right away or what he's doing versus like when he runs away and we notice right away we can holler for another teacher and say, hey, I need someone to come in here, or I need someone to go grab him, and that sort of thing.
Do they do head counts constantly?
We're supposed to do head counts constantly. It's supposed to be like every transition, and like you're always supposed to know, like for our licensing, we're always supposed to know how many kids are in the classroom at all times. And so it's supposed to just kind of be like the natural thing to do is during any transition. So like when you're getting ready to line up, or like when you're putting coats on, you can say like, okay, here's one coat, like, and kind of count that way, like as you get the kids' coats on, and then having them line up in their spots. Or like even in times of like if you're going to the bathroom after a meal, you can do a head count that way, so that it's just like, okay, these are the kids who have gone to the bathroom, and like if only 6 of them have gone, and you know you have 8 kids, obviously 2 of them still need to go, and if they're not in there, like then you know that you've lost 2 kids. And so it's supposed to just be kind of like a consistent check, just like with yourself. But like I said, that doesn't always happen. It just kind of depends on what teacher's in the room, how experienced they are, and how often they're in that room specifically.
Okay, so my problem I have in one of my practicum classes is a child likes to throw tantrums just throughout the day.
How old is the child?
He's 5 years old.
Does he have anything that like usually will set him off that's frequent?
Basically, if you don't let him get his way, if he's doing anything and you tell him no, it'll just automatically set him off.
Does he also have this behavior at home, or is it just at school?
Yeah, it's definitely at home too. The parents struggle with using no and not just letting him do whatever he wants, basically.
Okay. Do they have any like strategies at home that they've been trying to enforce?
Not really that I know of.
Okay.
Did they do anything like in the classroom that like has been like helping him?
It's a very busy classroom. Not really. Not anything that we've tried that's been successful.
I had a question. I lost it. Oh, how much screen time does he get at school? Does he get a lot? Do you know if he gets like a significant amount at home?
No screen time usually at school.
Okay.
Usually try not to use very much screen time. No iPads or anything. Really.
Okay.
And then at home, I assume he gets some, but I'm not sure how much really.
Okay. Gotcha. Are there any like trigger times, or is he worse for like teachers? Does he do it more if it's like with his peers, like interacting with his peers? Is it certain teachers?
Well, since he's in a kindergarten classroom, so it's the same teacher usually,
Okay.
and then there's different pairs that'll go in throughout the day. The teacher just kind of has a lot on her plate, so she'll try to do different things, and he'll react the best to her. He doesn't react the best to the pairs that are in the room. He doesn't really see them as like someone that he needs to listen to at all. And then times throughout the day that are the hardest are in the morning when he first gets to school. He definitely doesn't want to be there and lets everyone know it. And then after nap or after kind of like any quiet times throughout the day, he's very irritable.
Okay.
More.
What strategies do they use to calm him down, to get him back on track?
Usually they just ignore him. They just let him do whatever in the classroom, but it's hard because there's so many other children that are in the classroom. Like he can get violent sometimes, and he'll throw things, or
So
he'll safety is an issue. Just because the classroom, isn't the biggest, and there's plenty of kids around, so they usually try to ignore him except for whenever it comes to a safety issue.
Do they remove him when he throws or tries to hit? Or
Whenever it comes violent, they call someone from the office down, and they can come get him. But other than that, they just keep him away.
Do they try to be more like proactive? Like, can they kind of tell if he's going to throw a fit for a situation, or is it more of just like his tantrums are kind of out of the blue and they just have to respond?
You can kind of tell just by if you're going to tell him no, then he's going to go off. You can
Yeah.
anticipate.
And you can't really just not tell him.
Exactly. Yeah, you can anticipate it, but you could say it in the nicest way possible, or like try to go about it, like make him excited for something else that we're about to do, but same reaction happens.
Okay. Have they tried when he starts throwing his fit? Like, did they do any kind of reward system that you know of?
Not really. I know the class has like a clip chart, so they all start on like the medium clip, and then they can go down 2 clips or up 2 clips.
Okay.
And they'll kind of try to use that, but the teacher doesn't always want to clip him down to the bottom every single day.
Yeah.
Because it's just more negative than that way.
One suggestion that I have that I've seen in my observations is there's a student who also has behavioral issues, and he also gets violent with his tantrums and just has a really hard time staying on task. And so what they do for him is if he, for so much time, can stay on task and like listen and not be violent towards others, he can take a break in their STAR room, which is just their intensive autism room because it's right next door, and it's also a kindergarten class, and he likes going in that room because they have all the cool stuff like the trampoline and the balls and all that kind of stuff. And so if he's like doing well, they have like a little daily chart they fill out. And so if he's doing well, he gets that break, and he gets like so many throughout the day. But if he isn't listening and he is being violent and he's being disruptive, not staying on task, then he misses that break, which is usually a pretty big disappointment for him. So then he tries to earn the next one. And it did take him a while when they first started it to figure out like, oh, if I keep throwing a fit, I don't get my next break either, and I want these breaks.
Mm-hmm.
But just an idea.
That's a good idea. I think that would work pretty well for him.
To go off the reward system, something that I saw in like my observations was like if they did well or like they did all their work, like they were allowed to bring a friend from lunch to like their classroom, and so then it would just be them and their friend and like the teacher, and they would just like have lunch together.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like nice for the kids because then they could just like have that one-on-one time with their friend, like in the chaos of all the day, like they could just have that one-on-one time with their friend, and then it was just like fun for the teacher to be there.
Yeah. Could be like quality time with the teacher as well. That
Yeah.
he might not get usually.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Are there any activities he likes a lot? Like, is there like motor activities?
I would say manipulatives are kind of his thing. Maybe puzzles or Legos or like building
Something
things.
that's fine motor.
Mhm. Yeah.
So maybe to go with the reward chart, another option would be he could choose what reward he'd like after earning, say, 5 or 10. He could choose for that day, I want to have lunch with the teacher, or I want to go to the special room working with
Mhm.
another teacher or a para that he does enjoy and is familiar with, or going and having a 5-10 minute break of his choice with Legos or another manipulative.
So kind of give a choice of
Mhm.
what.
But I would limit
would
it to like
happen.
2 choices
Yeah.
a day. Be like,
Okay.
okay, today what are we working towards?
Okay. So at the beginning of the day,
Have a
kind of
half-
make sure.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's a good idea.
And to go off of the choices also, you could use choices for more than just like a reward or like picking something out to play with. You could do it with, if you know he's gonna throw a fit, or if he's already started throwing a fit, you could say, okay, you're making this choice, but like you have the choice to get your body under control and like come join your friends in this activity, or like, come join your friends for lunch, or like if you're gonna keep making this choice, you can come over here and throw your fit, but you're not gonna sit here and throw things at your friends or be destructive, and leave the choice completely up to him instead of putting it all on the teacher
Yeah.
to make him feel like he's got a little more control over the situation.
Mhm. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Choices of if he needs that time of a break,
Mhm.
not just as a reward, but just literally
Yeah.
sitting and being quiet. I don't know if there's a space where there's like bean bags or like soft pillows to just sit and chill
Yes.
and relax.
Or get a good
Contain
cry out.
yourself. Yeah.
Sometimes 5-year-olds just need to cry it
Yeah.
out, you know.
And then
just-
contain themselves
yeah,
back
and then
together
like,
and join.
okay, well, if you're gonna make this choice, when you're ready, you can calm your body down and come join us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then just not make it a big deal after that. If he gets himself calmed down, just don't really acknowledge it, and just kind of That way he doesn't think like, oh, I got this big reaction out of them, because you're still just kind of leaving him, but you're also not allowing him the opportunity to like be.
And unsafe.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's a good idea, as long as he would realize eventually that he would like cut the time short, because
Yeah.
I mean it wouldn't be the best to leave him out
Yeah.
while we're doing a
No.
big activity that he needs to learn from. But I think eventually he would realize like,
Yeah.
okay, no one's paying attention to me. I need to dry the tears and like.
Yeah,
get
well, and
back
another
to-
thing with that also is you could just really like exaggerate how much fun the other kids are having and
What
how
is
cool
missing?
of an activity it is, and just really like hype it up like, oh, I sure wish all of my friends could do this, or something along those lines.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think the reward system is a very honestly all the possibilities that we talked about are really good. I like the choices of the rewards that were talked about, just to give enough options to make sure it's something that he's willing to work towards
variety.
each day. Yep, exactly. Instead of same old thing, then he'd get bored of it and then it wouldn't work anymore.
Yeah.
So giving choices is a good idea.
And they can shift as he grows in development and interests. Maybe one day he likes dinosaurs and he's all about playing with the dinosaurs. And next time he needs to run around in the gym for 10 minutes. If you have the extra teacher, take him, let him run, get that energy out.
Yeah, exactly. 'Cause there are paras throughout the day that come in, so it could be easy just for a para to take him just for a couple minutes somewhere if he needs to go.
Yeah, and then it's something special that just he gets to do,
Mm-hmm.
so he might not feel like he needs that extra attention that he would get from throwing a tantrum.
Exactly.
Okay, so the problem I have is at my practicum placement, during whole group, we have a child who doesn't like to sit and stay engaged with the entire group, whether it be a story or a calendar or whatever else she's doing that day.
How old? Like, what's the age range?
It's an early childhood classroom, so this specific child's 3, but there are 3 and 4-year-olds.
Okay.
And how many are in the group?
Depends on the day because they come different days, but usually it's about 8 to 10.
Are there any other like teacher aides or paras in the room, or is it
Mhm.
just the teacher?
Yeah, there's usually 2 pairs because it is an early childhood special ed classroom. So
So since it's a special ed classroom, what other exceptionalities does this student have?
this one has some muscular issues, so
Okay.
sitting sometimes is an issue.
Okay.
Just paying attention, she gets easily distracted, but she's very bright.
And then what does she do when she's not engaged? Does she like go and be disruptive? Does she just go sit somewhere else quietly?
She'll turn around, she'll find something else to look at, she'll try to talk to the paras or to another student that's near her, but she doesn't usually like fully get up and move.
Okay, she just like distracts those around her. Okay. Have you guys thought about, since she has other muscular issues, having like a wobble seat or some kind of like fidget chair? That way she's not just sitting on the carpet. Kind of give her like the wobble seats you can obviously wobble back and forth on, or any of the fidget seats that you can like kind of spin on without, or not spin, but like kind of roll around on without being super distracting to your other students. Have you guys thought about? Do you think that she would? Do you think it would help, or just be another distraction?
Not so much a distraction, I think, because she has muscular issues. Stability is already sometimes an issue, so having a specific spot where she can kind of find her center. We do sometimes have her sit on like a little block.
Okay.
It's just enough off the floor to try to keep her posture, but it doesn't really keep her from turning or looking away.
Gotcha.
So what have you guys tried so far to do whenever she's kind of looking and wandering around?
So the block, we thought that would help her find her stability, maybe stop trying to turn around. It hasn't been super effective. We also sometimes use like picture prompts, so if we have a picture of eyes or like a quiet sign, we show it to her and point like eyes up front. And it works briefly, but it doesn't, you have to consistently
and
keep
is
doing it.
that just for her, or Is that like a system that you use for the whole group, or is it like
The
just
whole group.
specific?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
like we use it individually. So like if a student is like, oh, look, eyes up front, remember this is where the center is. But like there's individual signs for other things too. Every student knows that if they see a certain sign, they know what it means.
Okay, yeah.
Do you do any kind of like reward system in the class to try and to try and like keep like do you do it like as a whole class any reward system to try and keep them on task or like anything for any specific students?
Sometimes they do specific like rewards, like if they do a certain, if like they have something they're working towards in motor or in any other area that they're struggling in, they work towards a goal and they get little rewards like, oh, you get to go to the motor room and roll around on the mat, something like that. But it's very individualized, and I don't think we have one set specifically for group time rewards.
Okay.
So what I was gonna say was like you could try doing like a Go Noodle video or something like that, like before or after the activity starts, just so like that energy is being burned, or like like if they did really good during your group time, and then you were like, oh well, here's your reward, like as a whole like group, they would get to do like a Go Noodle video.
Everyone together gets
Yeah.
to win.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good. I like that. Burn some of that energy. Maybe the Wiggles and turn her around will find her center.
And since you said that there are pairs in the room, you could also try just having one of the pairs sit like right with them. That way they can just really quietly and without really drawing a lot of attention, just like, hey, like you said with like the picture charts, like your eyes need to be up front and like that kind of thing, and more of like one-on-one without like singling her out or drawing the whole
Right.
class's attention to it.
Yeah, sending them near her. It's a good idea.
Is there anything that she is drawn towards whenever she's distracted? Like anything that she's like, is she looking out the window? Is she just, or she just likes to wander? her
Yep,
eyes?
just
Okay,
likes to
yeah.
look anywhere but where she's supposed to be.
Okay, yeah.
Nothing specific usually, just around seeing what other children are doing maybe. Even if they're sitting and looking, she still has her eyes fixated on them instead of the teacher sitting in the front reading or
Okay.
So maybe like not like to like exclude her from the group, but just like moving her back a little bit away from like a lot of people. So like on carpet, you can like have everybody in like the first 3 rows, and then her like a little bit behind, so that she's like not so distracted by them. And then like that way she has to be looking forward to like even see them in the first place.
so she can still catch their
Or you could even do the opposite of that and put her right in the front. That way she has to completely turn around, and if you have a pair right next to her, it would still be the redirection, which at first, obviously, until she got used to being in the front, it might be more distracting for the whole
Right.
group. But, so yeah, you could try either of those.
Yeah, the only problem with the front is that then the pair is right in the center with all the other children
Oh.
trying to be around.
Of course.
But I like the
Yeah,
idea.
right?
Yeah.
All right, makes sense.
The back
pairs are a
would-
lot bigger
yeah.
than them.
Yeah. So yeah, the back would be, maybe that's a good idea to set her in the back so she can still see what they're doing. Because I don't know if she's trying to see, oh, are they doing, am I supposed to be doing that? Or she's just
Yeah.
interested in them in general.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she can see them and still have her focus in the front.
And then for group time, I know it's usually like pretty good to keep things like interactive. So anytime you're saying something, having the children like doing something and like occupied to try to keep them involved is usually good. Maybe you could try like different things, like whenever they're supposed to be listening, they need to put their binoculars up and like look at you with them, or just different things like that.
Okay.
Or like, yeah, if you want them to be sitting still like crisscross applesauce, you could do like sit crisscross applesauce and put your spoons in the bowl. That way their arms are on the floor and in between their legs, hopefully not touching anyone else if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Or even just like if you're singing a song, like with what you said with keeping it interactive, like even if it's like the ABCs, having them like pat their legs with every sound, just something to, something to keep
Yeah.
them focused that way. Yeah, just because if they're so focused, like if they're focusing on listening to you, that's great. But then they also have like, oh, I need to be doing this. This is what all my friends are doing, and like this is so fun. We're singing a song and like doing an action.
Yeah.
But
Keep their hands busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So their focus is on doing that and watching instead of watching everyone else.
Yeah.
I like that idea too.
Yeah.
So I think my two favorites that would work best for that situation for group with the other children are maybe setting her in the back instead of the front, because I know we try to put her towards the front, but she's interested behind her, so that she can see everything that everyone's already in front of her, and then the rewards for group with either the Go Noodle, so everyone gets a chance, just like, oh, look, I did well, we get to do this together. Those are nice. I like those.
So what are some of the specific activities that you guys do during your group or carpet time?
So usually it's in the beginning of the morning, and it is a calendar. They say the month, they count the days of the month, and they talk about the days of the week, and then usually there's some type of story.
Okay. And do you have like actions for like saying the days of the week? Like, do you do like a song for the days of the week, or do you just say them?
Yeah, there is a song for days of the
Okay.
week. They do the one to the tune of the Addams Family.
Okay.
So they pat their legs, and then they just count as a group, but that's really the only song.
Have you thought about having them stand up for any of the songs? Like, I know for like some teachers do, like I know that you said that you just say the specific month, but some teachers do like the months of the year, or like even with the days of the week, can do like the Macarena to it, so that the students get to stand up and do it, or even just for the days of the week with patting their legs, you could have them like stand up and like give their friends high fives, or just stand up and pat their legs for it, just to get them like up and moving. That way, again, like after doing some of the Go Noodle videos or something like that, to get their wiggles out at the beginning, they can also like stand up and get some of that energy out while you're doing the learning too.
Yeah.
And is it the whole time, or is it that she doesn't like calendar, that she doesn't like the book? Like, is it a certain part of it, or just in general?
She starts off pretty good. It's the focus is there, and then like usually about after the calendar is we are transitioning into the book part of group, she kind of starts to wander her eyes and lose interest, maybe, or just focus.
So is it possible that it's like too long for her? Like maybe it could be like broken up, possibly, like with the Go Noodle like thing, like okay, Go Noodle in the middle, okay, now back to the book, like something like that could maybe work.
Or you could do, this might be a little advanced for them since it is an early childhood special ed class, but you could have them do like an action for certain, like if it's one character, or if you're talking about like a tornado, every time that like the wind blows, you could have them do like an action, and obviously you would be doing it too, so they would know like, oh, whenever she like raises her arms like this, like we're supposed to do that too because the wind is blowing, or something along those lines, to make the book also interactive. Or you could even like every time you turn the page say, so what does it look like is happening on this page, and then see, or like what do you like about this picture, that kind of thing, just to keep them, it's more interactive, to try and keep them more engaged. That way they're not just sitting there trying to listen.
Right. Yeah.
Even back to like what Brianna said about like doing the Go Noodle in the middle, then the teacher could already have like the book ready, so then there wouldn't be that distraction or like waiting time for them. They would already be just like ready to go, so she wouldn't have the opportunity to like look around.
Okay. Yeah. Get the wiggles out in between, and then maybe more likely to sit and follow along. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay, so during like calendar time, this like student would just like the teacher would ask a question, and then like they would be like, raise your hand if you have like an answer, and then they would all raise their hand, and she would call on this one kid, and he would just repeatedly just like go off topic and just like be like something else, like my favorite color is blue, and then like that was it.
So is it just like that specific kid? Do multiple of the students in the class do it?
Just him.
Just him? How old is he?
Like 3 or 4.
Okay. And like, is it when you're talking about like certain subjects, like if you're asking them like the day of the week, does it happen then? Or is it just if you're asking like more specific questions, if that makes sense?
It's mostly just like the whole time, just like when they're like in their like calendar time, just like anything will be just, like,
Anytime you
hey,
have
okay.
a
like,
chance.
yeah,
It's just
Gotcha.
like, I have something to say.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
All right, and it's never relevant.
No.
Okay.
Like, what kind of things? Is he trying to, like, answer different questions? Is he trying to tell stories? Is he trying to talk about random things?
Mostly stories, like tell us something interesting that happened to him, which is like fine, but like also not the time for it. Or like he'll try and like talk to other people.
Does it happen more on like specific days of the week? So like more on like a Monday when he just had the weekend at home to like do all of this like fun stuff with his parents, or is it pretty much all the time? Is it more on like Fridays when he's looking forward to the weekend?
I was gonna say I notice it a lot on Fridays.
On Fridays?
So maybe it's just like him looking forward to the weekend.
Mhm.
Excited.
Yeah.
So when he does that, does the teacher do anything to like prevent it, or
When like what I've noticed is that she'll literally just let him talk, and then it'll be like okay, and then she's just like calling somebody else. So like that's also not productive.
so is he called on and then says something random, or
Yeah.
is he just blurting it out?
No, she'll like call on him.
So he waits.
Yeah. Sometimes. Most of the time he waits, but there's sometimes where he just like
Says it.
can't
Okay.
Yeah.
wait.
It's just too exciting.
So she lets him, like,
Yeah.
carry on and get it all out of his system.
Yeah.
I mean, one
Like she thinks it's gonna
suggestion, if she knows he's going to do that, she could always, obviously it's not ideal, but she could just save him for last to ask him
Mhm.
that way. Everyone else doesn't get off topic because they've already
help. Right.
said their point or like answered the question. That way it's just kind of like he gets off topic, but it's at the end, so it's still not ideal, but it's better than if he's like the first
Yeah.
student to answer, and then all of the kids are like, well, I want to talk about what I'm doing on the weekend, or like, I want to say my favorite color, I want to say what I'm getting for Christmas, like that kind of thing.
Well, then you can just move on to if you like left
Right.
it for last. You could be like, okay. Well,
Yeah, exactly. Or you could just be like, oh, that's not on topic, moving on,
Yeah.
without it being a distraction for everyone.
Yeah, another thing you could do is before you call on him, repeat the question. Say, like, oh, if the question is, what's the date for today? So if today was the 28th, you would say, all right, so and so, what is the date? And reiterate that that's what you're talking about. And if he says, like, starts to say something else, be like, nope, one more chance. What's the date? And if he doesn't,
Yeah, or
say,
you
"All
could
right,
even just
moving on
understand
to
like,
somebody
oh,
else."
did you not understand the question? Like if you can tell, like if he is starting off just completely off topic, you could just like, oh, did you understand the question? Did you need me to say it again? Do you need an example? Like that kind of thing, just to really, like Tori said, just like drill it into his head. Like this is the question that we're answering right now.
And bring the focus back to
Yeah.
that topic, not whatever topic he's thinking
Yeah.
he wants to choose.
I would say another thing that you could try is, I know in one of my kindergarten practicums, if one of them is like raising their hand and they have a story to tell, or they try to tell the story whenever they're supposed to be answering a question, she'll be like, okay, if you want to tell me a story, you can tell me outside. I'll be outside for recess today. If you can remember it until then, come find me during recess and I'll be happy to hear it and like talk to you about it.
Yeah.
So just kind of breaking up, like right now we're doing calendar, right now we're doing this, like we need to focus on this. I'd love to hear your story, but this is not the time for it. And
Yeah.
giving them a time to let that out because they want to tell their teachers things,
Right.
like they have a close relationship with them.
Yeah.
So just to foster that in a place where it's supposed to be.
Another time of day, if they aren't doing recess duty, if there's like free play or free choice,
Mhm.
when the teacher's just walking around from different activities and they want to talk then, that's an appropriate time to tell them, okay, during free choice, if you can remember it until then, we can talk about it then. You can tell me your story or what's happening over the weekend now instead of during group or calendar.
Another thing to kind of go off of that, just to reiterate, like, the focus of what you're doing is, like, before you even start, like, group time, is just having, like, a set of rules or something along those lines. Like, okay, when we're doing group time, we listen to our friends, we raise our hands before we speak, like, we sit quietly, any of those kinds of things that you really want them to be doing, and having them say it back to you so they know, okay, this is what's expected of me during this time Like, I need to make sure I'm listening. I need to make sure that I'm focused and that I'm answering the questions that I'm asked instead of just like, oh, it's group time, I'm going to sit down and then talk about whatever I feel like. Yeah.
It's not free choice story time. It's
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about
Just like really
this
setting the
story we're
tone.
reading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, this is what we're doing. This is all we're talking about right now. And then going back to what Brianna said, like, if we're going to talk about something else, like, that needs to be done later. Like, this isn't the time for telling random stories. Like, this is only to talk about the story we're reading or to talk about calendar time or whatever it is that you're doing. And then I think another just kind of general thing that we've all like touched on more specifically is just like redirecting them, and like with especially like what Tori said, just if you can tell that they're starting to go off topic, just making sure that you say, hey, that's not what we're talking about right now. And then like you can also use what Brianna said, like in that moment, like, hey, that's not what we're talking about. We can talk about it at recess. Or like, oh, remember, we only tell stories like that at whatever time.
Have a specific time set so they know they can always go to that time of the day. Or be like, oh, at this time you can talk to your friend, or if I'm free, you're able to come talk to me as well. But having a set time, so every day, that same time, they know, oh, okay, I have to pay attention for group, but I can talk freely on what I'd like to choose at this time.
Or you could even do it like at the beginning of group time, or set aside a couple minutes at the end of group time, like, okay, who wants to share what they did this weekend, or who wants to share what they had for dinner last night, or what you're doing next weekend, that kind of thing. That way they can all share something like fun and exciting, and it doesn't, if they get it out, or they know that they'll have an opportunity to talk about it at the end. And then if they don't stay on task, you can always say, oh, remember, like, we're going to talk about that at the end. I hope that you can be a part of it. Because if they can't focus and you have to redirect them enough, you can just say, like, oh, you're going to lose your turn. Like, I hope that you make the right choice to get to participate.
Yeah. Creating positive opportunities to be successful and have those communications, because that's important, building communication skills, but also it's important to learn the listening and answering what's being asked.
And it gives the students all the same opportunity and the same time to talk to you. That way it's not just, oh, well, so-and-so gets to tell you their story every day during group time and I don't get to, I have to wait until recess. Yeah.
No singling out. Everyone gets equal opportunity.
Yeah.
I also think that positive reinforcement would be a good idea. So, like, when you notice that child does answer the question that was being asked, like, right away, like, without being told, like, oh, we're not telling stories, like, be able to, like, say to them, like, oh, good job, like, thank you for answering the question that I asked, and then pulling them aside later and just, like, letting them know that they did a really good job, and just, like, letting them know they're proud of them for doing that will, like, really make them, oh, I, like, want to make my teacher proud of me, like, let's keep doing this.
Or, like, even if they don't get the answer right, but they're trying, or it's in the same subject, you can just say, oh, I really like that you're paying attention, or, like, you listened so well today. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know. The ideas that I really liked was when you said to, like, set aside the different time, or, like, the positive reinforcement. Like, I feel like those are things that could, like, he would actually, like, benefit from, and that he would, like, really enjoy.
That's a good idea.
Every time he runs out of the classroom and leaves the other 9 students in there alone.
I need a minute.
Okay, so I have a student in my preschool class who has a really hard time staying in the classroom. He likes to run out.
We gotta switch spots. I can't sit across from Kaylee.
Every time.
Switch with me. I gotta.
Okay, so my problem is that one of the students in my
Stop!
All right, no, this is the last time.
I was like, I